Morning, everybody. Can I just get a hands up just so you can hear me? Good stuff. Thank you very much. We'll get started now. Okay. This is being recorded, just so you know, just to make you aware, and you can also share it with colleagues afterwards. So I just want to find my. There we go. Okay. Good stuff. So thanks for joining today's webinar. I hope you're all having a good week and a good morning so far. My name is Jonathan Reinhart. I'm a technical consultant here at Diatech, and my background is in the architectural industry, but also in engineering and construction as well. And I've been involved in BIM management and BIM implementation, and that's kind of my day-to-day as well here in Diatech is looking at the technologies that fit into BIM processes. You know, whether that's virtual reality or whether it's, you know, construction related software, design related software. So kind of covering all aspects of it here with the team at Diatech. So Diatech, we're an Autodesk Platinum partner, and we're a technology partner to the construction industry, you know, including architectural software, engineering software, construction related software, and then even down to hardware, HP equipment, plotters and the likes as well, and anything that you need technology based for your business. We've got offices in Dublin, Galway, Cork in the UK, and if you do need to contact us, either, you know, contact myself, that's jonathan@diatech.ie, or autodesk@diatech.ie, and if you have any follow-up questions or anything, feel free to put them in the chat box, or, you know, send me an email afterwards. So I'll get cracking on with it, and let you get on with your day. So I suppose the purpose of what we're going to cover today is looking at Enscape as a virtual reality plugin, and I suppose the basis or the context of this is that there's currently a promotion on this, 22% off, that ends around the 22nd of February, just so you're aware. I have used this software myself in practice in architectural firms before I was involved with Diatech. I have used this software, and it is fantastic, I do have to say. I'm not just being biased, but it is really the quality of it is phenomenal, and just the workflow of it is really impressive as well. So just to keep in mind that there is a promo on until the 22nd of February. The prices are on our website. And just I think you need to take the 22% off that, or just drop me an email if you're interested in licenses after this as well. So just to I'll just do a couple of slides on Enscape, and then I'm going to jump into Revit itself and just show you the workflows, just show you how easy it is to use, and how fluid it is as well. So I suppose typically, you know, if we look at traditional visualization processes, you'll probably have a 3D model, you'll probably have 2D CAD or 2D set of drawings, then you'll have a 3D model, and then that will be either outsourced or sent to somebody using a 3D piece of software. And I suppose what Enscape does is, if you're using Revit, or in fact it works with lots of other software as well, it works with SketchUp and other types of BIM authoring software as well, so it's not only Autodesk software that it works with. But if you're working in Revit, Enscape works inside Revit, inside the toolbar. You don't need to leave the software whatsoever. So if you're modeling a building in Revit, you can immediately just turn on Enscape, and it's going to give you that real-time visualization. Change a material, you know, a split second later, the material will update. You move an object, a chair, furniture, wall, window, it will update in the real-time visualization immediately. And then you can walk through that visualization either with a client at design stage, you know, regardless of what type of discipline you are, even if you're architectural or mechanical or structural, you know, to be able to navigate through a model, to explain it to a contractor, or to explain it to a client, or to explain it internally as well, to discuss a design. Enscape lends itself well to all those type of uses. And there's even other further functionality in there that further enhances that, such as you can place issues on items as well, and capture design issues or construction related issues and mark them in the visualization. And somebody else can open the model in your office on their version of Revit, on their version of Enscape, and those issues will be in there as well. So there's also that issue tracking, which is quite powerful. You can add notes to issues. Maybe there's a material that the clients didn't like. Maybe there's a height of a beam that the architect or engineer wasn't happy with. You can capture all that and record that within the software as well. It's not just visualization, it's a whole lot more when you take a look at it. So I suppose it's more of a fluid process is what I'm trying to say here, as opposed to the traditional type process. So it can be used for, doing feasibility or kind of proposal quality feasibility studies of, 3D visualizations, either detailed ones or, more massing type stage for architectural related elements as well. Or again, if there's structural or mechanical equipment, or if you have a structural or mechanical model, you can present that in a visualization format as well, in a real-time rendered format as well. So even pre-design stage, for that kind of massing elements from an architectural perspective, you can build up your design and just explore the masses, the type of spaces in that Enscape environment as well. So I'll just go through these couple of slides and then kind of creating conceptual models as well. You could take that model and bring it into maybe an image processing software, or even in Revit, you can manipulate it as well. So you can take still renders as well, by the way, and you can do those video walkthroughs, and you can do real-time walkthroughs in the software. But those real-time walkthroughs, you can also send that to a client. So for example, you could export, it's an Enscape exe file, export that file, send it to a client over a share drive or whatever it is, and they can open that. They don't need software. They can open that completely without a license or anything, and they can open it and walk through their building entirely and explore that design, away from the 2D drawings as well, which in my opinion is far more tangible to people who aren't used to reading 2D drawings. So maybe just schematic design, but you can also do daylighting analysis in it as well. It's just a simple filter you can turn on, and it will show you the solar impact that you're getting inside a building, or even externally as well. Do you need to increase window openings or decrease them for solar overheating, for example, or do you need to add some sort of shading? And it will show you that complete impact on the internal and even on the external surfaces that you can see in this screen as well. And then obviously you can move your design into design development stage or detail design stage, adding more detail, adding furniture, people, bookcases, getting into the really nitty gritty stuff, window sills, blinds, light switches, whatever it is you want, you can use it at that stage as well. So, and then change materials in real time as well. And we'll look at that in the demonstration. And then even from a construction documentation point of view, walking through this model pre-construction with a contractor, and marking up issues of items that you agree or disagree or may need to be captured at a certain stage as well, pre-construction. You can mark all of those up in the model as well. So very powerful. You could be doing this in a design team meeting, either in a site office or even remotely. You could be doing it over like a Zoom session like we're in today here, and you could be marking and adding comments if you wanted to. And then post-construction, even from a sales perspective, creating sales quality images, the still renders in Enscape are really, really high quality, I have to say. The lighting is just really sharp and really, really smooth, and it's done immediately. It takes seconds to generate a still render as well, if that's what you want, and use it as a sales image perhaps for a particular project. So that's just to give you some context on effectively what Enscape is. What I'm now going to do is I'm actually going to now jump into the software and just talk you through how the software works, show you how easy it is to use, and then we'll kind of take some questions at the end. So we'll run until just before 12 o'clock. I'll take questions at around 10 to or a quarter to, depending how we are for time. So I'm just going to open up the software. So what you can see here is I have a sample Revit model opened up. You may be familiar with it. It's from the sample files inside the Revit installation that comes with it. So I just opened up one of our sample files, and I'm just going to show you how it handles that particular file. So this particular one is an office building, and I've made some material edits to it as well. And I just want to show you the quality that you can actually get from it. So Enscape is just a toolbar. So it comes in with this kind of 5 or 10 buttons, nothing too extensive or complex by any means. So it's just an add-in toolbar. It comes into your Revit toolbar here. So you've got something called the start button. So when I press that, it's going to open up the real-time renderer. I won't go in there for the moment. It will open up the real-time renderer and will be within the model itself. What I also have here is the views in the office building. And these views you may recognize. These are the same views that are generated in your project browser. So as soon as I generate a 3D view in here, it's automatically selectable in here. And I suppose the benefit of that is when I select this view and press start, it will immediately bring me to that view in the real-time renderer. So if you've got quite a complex or large building, or just want to show a client a specific room or space, you just create a 3D view in there, you know, placing a camera the same way you do in an architectural, a design project within Revit. You simply just place your 3D view the exact same way you do. So I'm going to place a camera view here, for example. You can see that's 3D view there. If I go back to my Enscape tab, I can see that same 3D view is visible here. So I can open up inside that 3D view if I want, and we will get to that in a moment as well. And I can also choose to export geometry from there as well, from the various views. So what also comes installed with Enscape is something called the asset library. So this is all your furniture, your entourage, your trees, your bins, sellotape holders, everything you can imagine is in here. Everything that you need is in here. And the geometry in these models is really, really high quality. And I'll show you that in some of the examples that we're going to go through. So even, you know, taking the furniture as an example, you know, these chairs are really, really high quality looking and look really well and graphically quite impressive. So these are come pre-installed with it, and you can add your own objects to this as well. So you can see there's quite an extensive amount of desks, beds, chairs, whatever it is you're looking to add. All that stuff exists in there. And then there's even external, you know, for landscaping purposes as well. So lots of different kind of street, you know, bins, benches, contemporary ones, traditional ones, street signs, all that kind of stuff to give you that entourage. And I think, you know, from a visualization perspective, it certainly gives that more sense of realism when you have, you know, this kind of fine detail in the context of your image as well, or of your 3D environment. So that's the asset library. We also have a material library. So this material library is separate to the Revit library. So this is high quality materials that come installed with Enscape itself. So you've got lots of different ones for grass, glass, and then different, you know, you can build your own as well. There's, you know, kind of, I suppose, interesting looking wallpaper and stuff like that if you wanted to apply that. And then wooden floors, you know, something like this really brings such realism to a project. And I'm going to show you how to add these materials as well. So I can bring in these materials and it will actually come into my Revit library, and I can apply that the same way I apply Revit materials as well. So it's quite fluid. It will still render Revit materials. These are just, I suppose, a slightly higher quality, and you can build up your library yourself. You don't have to go near this library by any means. You can still just use the same Revit library that you use in the materials area as well. So those materials can exist in your template, and they can exist in here once you import them as well. It's a one-time thing only. And all of these rendering properties from inside here. So if I was to choose a particular object here, or a particular item here, let's see, let's say we a door handle or a door frame, for example, I could add lots of different properties to this. Any properties that I add in here, if it's reflection, refraction, transparency, all of that reflects in the Enscape environment as well. So it's not just that you have to do it in a separate Enscape location. You do it in Revit and it updates inside the Enscape environment. And we will get to that in a moment. I just want to talk through this toolbar while we're there as well. You can also edit materials as well. So lots of that, you know, sort of editing opportunity as well. You're not just stuck with the materials that you have there. You can do something called, you can create panoramas of a view, and you can generate a web standalone panorama, for example. That will give you a URL link. And for example, if you're using the Google Cardboard, you could give that to someone on a phone, put the phone in it, and they could see a panorama of a 360-degree view of a building as well. And that's all easily generated from inside here as well. And we'll get to that in a moment. Some sort of sound settings as well. If that's what you want, you could, for example, create a speaker, add some sound to it in a room, and as you walk through the building, the distance of the sound will be experienced from that particular room. So it gives that kind of immersive feeling. And obviously, virtual reality headsets can be plugged into this Oculus Rift or HTC, and it's just a simple switch in the software as well. And then some other general settings, very straightforward, just about graphics cards and rendering options, very, very basic, as you can see. So very hard to get too confused with this kind of stuff. And there's also options to enable a live Revit camera as well. In that, as you navigate in Revit, it will navigate in Enscape as well, and we'll look at that in a moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have a 3D view prepared here. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to my default 3D view, and on the left here, I'm just going to press start. So it'll just take a couple of seconds to start up. So what it's doing is it's just going to open up the real-time renderer. So this is kind of once you open your Revit project, you'd probably open this alongside it. If you're working on two screens, then all the better, because you can have Enscape on one and Revit on the other. And I suppose that comes down to your own type of workflow as well. It just means that you can have the Revit view, obviously, with the Enscape view in the background as well. So this background, we're able to change that. Don't worry at all. So it's brought in, as you can see, it's brought in the entire Revit environment. And what I'm actually doing is I'm just going to zoom in here. The roof I have turned off in Revit, so it's turned off in here. And you can see all I'm doing is navigating on my mouse, and I'm just using my left click mouse to spin around like that. And then I'm using my forward buttons on my keyboard. And my shift key kind of speeds me up, and I can zoom in, which moves me even faster. So you can see here, this is out of the box Revit material. So, maybe not the greatest looking materials, not the most realistic. So what we can do is we can actually start to edit these. So I've made prepared some kind of visualization areas up here. I've got if I remember, I've kind of built an office area up here. I've placed some desks around. So these desks I have taken from the Revit library, from the Enscape library, and placed them in Revit. You'll probably recognize these type of chairs if you're into your architecture. So you can see a good reflection even off the chrome of the seats. And then even these computer screens, these were part of the asset library as well. And we can change that background, and we've placed some plants around as well. So you can see quite realistic. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to start making some changes to the materials in this environment as well, and maybe moving some objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize that screen, and then I'll go through some of the more settings in here as well. So all I'm going to do is just going to half that screen there, and I'm going to half my Revit screen as well. So half my Revit screen, and you'll see when I engage in Enscape, it gives me an option to pause live updates. So obviously, when you have this open, it's using your graphics card, and so is Revit. So if you need to pause the live update, you can completely pause it here on the left hand side. But if I don't pause it, it means anything I change in here will immediately change in here on the right hand side. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to look for that same room in this environment here, and I'm actually going to do is create a 3D view. So there's that room there. So you can see I've kind of got the plants spaced around. I've got those desks placed around here as well. So I've just got a floor plan of that. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change the material on this floor, for example. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to enlarge that just to give me a bit of a bigger view. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this particular floor. So I'm going to select this particular floor. So all I'm doing is just tabbing in the same way you would with any floor. So I'm just going to let me grab it down here. It's the same floor. So all I'm doing is selecting that in Revit, so I can see the finish on this type of floor is wood floor material as well. So it's just wood flooring. So I know I can make changes to that wood flooring if I want. So I could come in here, and again, I could search in my Revit library if I want. I'm just going to put in floor and see what we could possibly replace it with. So I'm just going to see what we have. So I'm just going to make that a bit bigger. So we've got lots of carpet, concrete if we want. So I could change that to concrete, or I could change it to a tile if I want. So I could navigate through my library this way and just update the material, and it will change in the real-time renderer. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to grab a Enscape material just because I know it's slightly higher quality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Enscape material library. I'm going to go to wood. I love this kind of chevron style floor. I'm going to import that selection. So it downloads it here from the cloud and just puts it into your project. So imported material is now available. There's also settings here to locate your typical materials, but this is a one-time thing only. I only need to import it once, and then I can reuse it as many times as I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that floor again. So I'm just going to So what I'm going to do is go edit type. I'm going to go and change this material. So there's the chevron floor that came in, and you can see, I don't know if you can make it out on screen, but it's fairly high quality. This is all so it has its own glossy map. It has a bump map attached to it as well. You can add tints, transparency, and even reflectivity to it if you want. I can add a bump map to it here. It does have its own glossiness type map. So I'm just going to leave it at this. I'm going to press OK on that, press OK on that, and then apply. So the same way you'd apply any sort of Revit material. So I'm just going to press OK on that. And then once I open up, so all I'm going to do is just change that. And then you can see immediately within my office environment, you can see that floor has updated straight away. So you could be sitting here with a client, or even if it's the QS going through different changes, or interior designer changing any sort of items, and that's updated across the entire building. So if I come back out this door, because I updated the floor, everything is updated, even right down to the lower floor as well. So that's how easy it is to change, and in the complete floor change has occurred across the entire building. So very fast and immediate. As you can imagine, you're not sending it out to a separate render engine and processing it overnight for 12, 16 hours like we used to have to do. That's how quick it is. And it's the same for placing Revit objects as well. So the same, if I minimize this, and if I, for example, I could copy a desk, or even what I'm going to do is, let's go into the asset library. Let's find a piece of furniture from the library, and I'm going to place a piece of furniture. Now, I am going to show you some other tricks with the furniture as well, just to show you, because what I find is, and you'll probably notice this yourself. So, for example, this is the plant geometry here. It's a lot of geometry. You don't want that in a set of drawings or in the planning application. And there's actually a way you can link Revit objects to Enscape objects, so that in the Revit environment, you'll only see the standard Revit geometry, whereas in the Enscape environment, you'll see the high quality plant object or desk object that is linked to that particular element. So I'm going to go into what we look for. I'll go into furniture here for a moment. So the ceiling lights, floor lights, obviously lots of different sort of lights like that. So I'm just going to grab this chair, for example. So it's just going to load that in. So I can just place that then in my floor plan, and the exact same way, I'm going to place it just on the other side of this desk. And the same way you place any Revit object, it's placed on my floor level. You can give it offset or anything if you need to, depending on the object. And then once I open up my, there's the chair is placed there immediately. So it's update straight away, and I can move that chair as well. I can actually move it in real time. We'll just look at that on screen. So I can grab this chair, for example, move it over here, and then it should update straight away there. So you can see very quick, the chair has now moved over there. And the quality of this, if you even look at the material, this is straight out of the box of Enscape. You can change this material by all means as well. You can add your own custom materials if you want brown leather or something different for that kind of effect. And then obviously navigating around the building, you can change all of the objects that reside in here. So these, for example, you'll probably recognize this kind of side and side table and beach material from inside the standard Revit library. Not the prettiest object in my opinion. But what I'm going to show you is, like I mentioned, is the linking of those objects. So if I go to the asset library again, so I'm going to go back into the asset library, back into furniture. We'll find another chair. So when you find any object, there's kind of 3 buttons or 3 dots down here. So you can place the asset on an active work plane. You can link the Revit family to an asset, or you can place the asset on a surface. So I'm going to link it to an asset. So link it to an asset. So I need to find out what is the name of that chair. So that's the first thing I need to do, which I didn't do there. So I need to, so let's say we want to find a chair that's slightly like that one. So let's say we're placing this chair, and we want the same geometry to appear, but we want a different Enscape element to appear. So this is a chair, Viper chair. So what I'm going to do is now go back into my asset library. So let's say this particular chair is similar to it, and we just want, because of the visual appearance, when we place this chair, the geometry is quite heavy, but we actually want the other chair to appear in plan view.
So just to show you that before I've made any changes. So it's placed that chair there randomly, which is in the way, so, and it's quite geometry heavy. So we don't want that in our image. We want to replace this in our image, but we want to keep this one in our floor plans. So again, asset library, going to drop down these 3 dots, link family to asset, and all I'm going to do is type in here. I know it's the Viper chair, so Viper chair. Press OK. So that's going to update wherever this Viper chair is in the entire project. It's going to replace it, but only in the Enscape view. So if I open up Enscape now, you can see all of those chairs have been replaced. All of those chairs have been replaced. There may be some, you can see that's kind of sitting in the window, so you may need to do some editing to it afterwards. That's just about the base points and stuff like that. But you can move that out and you can edit the families to suit. So if I maybe pull that out, it should be something a bit more like that. So that's how you'd use that to replace, I suppose, geometry that may be a bit geometry or line intensive as well. What I'm also going to change maybe on this is the wall covering as well, and we'll kind of just make that a bit more realistic as well. So yellow walls, nobody likes yellow walls, or I certainly don't anyway. So what I'm going to do is go back into Enscape Material library, and we'll look. I'm going to look for some sort of wallpaper. So these are out of the box ones, but like I said, you can make your own if you want. What else have we got? We've got wallpaper. We've got, if we wanted to put wood on the walls or stone, lots of different, you know, if you have a stone wall or something like that as well. So I'm just going to grab a wallpaper. What have we got in bricks? I'm going to grab one of these bricks. That's what I'm going to do. A worn brick will go for that sort of effect. So brick import. So I just brick 08 worn. So all I'm going to do the same way we did with the floor, exact same process. So it is currently set to plasterboard. So what I will do is we'll ignore that for the moment. We just want to look at the finishes for this. We'll ignore the actual construction of it. There it is. Press apply. This does have a bump map, so it brings all of that in. I could add a tint color to it if I wanted to as well, and that will reflect up here. It kind of has a white tint. Maybe I wanted to change that slightly. Press OK, apply, press OK, and then again jump back into my model. Oh, did I press apply on that? Oh, it's a different wall, that's why. So it's applied in here. We can see I didn't select the right wall. There we go. So wherever that wall is located, that material change will occur as well. So the same goes for any type of finishes or materials that you may be adding to a project as well. And you can see, I don't know if it comes out on screen, but the reflection, the light coming in through the window, you can see it, the reflection bouncing off the front line of the window here and kind of fading as it gets into the room. It is extremely realistic in that regard, I have to say. Very believable. And the same if you're using a virtual reality headset. I'm currently using a mouse and a desktop screen here. I could be using a virtual reality headset. I don't have one plugged in at the moment. I just click VR headset and it's going to come up in my headset. And as well as that, the person with the headset on will obviously see it in VR environment, but the person watching the screen will see what the person in VR is seeing as well. So it kind of has that dual functionality as well. As the person moves through the VR model, both people, person on screen and the person in the headset will see any changes or, you know, any sort of navigation that's occurring within the headset or on screen as well. So just some tips there and kind of controls, fairly basic stuff, nothing too complex whatsoever. What I can also do in here as well is choose different types of, you know, the mouse speed, all those type of settings, very basic. You know, if you've got 3D stereo and if you want to enable sound, so very straightforward stuff. But there's also some visual settings as well. So I could change to light view here, and again, it's going to give me that lux reading up here. It will show me, you know, where the daylight is kind of penetrating in the room, and I can still navigate through the whole building while I'm within this view as well. I can even jump into just this kind of plain view as well. So it'll show me that polystyrol view as well, or polystyrol view, should I say. Just a very plain conceptual view, turns off the materials, doesn't affect your Revit model whatsoever. Still the exact same Revit model you have in here. It doesn't change the materials. It's purely just the appearance within the Enscape environment. So very, very, very quick and very powerful. I think the speed of this is the most impressive thing. Being able to communicate this, you know, this is an out of the box Revit model. Visually, very little has been done to this other than adding some furniture and changing material. So very straightforward. Or you can even do a kind of a white view as well. And a trick that somebody in Diatech has showed me is that you can actually, I quite like this view, you know, just at that concept stage, you can turn on the polystrol view, turn on your outlines, and gives you that kind of conceptual look and feeling as well, just to navigate around, you know, maybe before materials have been chosen, or, you know, maybe you don't even want to show materials. Maybe you want to show, maybe an engineer or a contractor would prefer to see it without the materials, or maybe it's just a structural model. You don't want to see it with materials on it. You just need to see it plain and purely. The geometry is the key thing you need to see in here as well. So you got kind of basic settings in there, very, very easy to change. I can jump between 2-point, orthographic, or perspective view, change the exposure if I want as well, even my field of view, mess with all those kind of settings, and then depth of field, rendering quality as well. I'm currently on high rendering quality. I could go to ultra if I want, and that's obviously going to give me quicker updates again, but I think high works perfectly fine just with the demand on my graphics card. I'm perfectly happy with that, particularly if I'm on a Zoom call as well. I'll just keep it at that for the moment. So you can change lots of other things, auto contrast, the view in here, change the shadows, depths, and motion blur as well as you move. You can even affect the lens flare from in there as well if you want, changing various settings in there. Give it that kind of bloom effect. Some people like it, some people don't. And then even add a vignette around it as well. So lots of different options there. And again, I can still go back, go to my standard view in here as well, and see what effect that has had on that at the same time as well. And then the background that you're seeing here. So we had, I think if I go through, I'm going to fly through this door into another building. Okay, so I'm just going to go into that corner office again. Here we are to see what the view is like out there. So what we're actually seeing here is we're seeing the Revit topography. So that's, you're kind of seeing that grass material out here. We'll get to that in a moment. We'll make that a bit more realistic looking. So to me, that bloom is just looking a little too strong there for my likings, and just the lens flare as well. Okay, so I can change this particular view as well. You know, I could just keep it clear if I wanted to. So give me nothing, just a horizon in the background. So kind of blank, and it will just give you your Revit geometry. Or if you're designing something in the desert, you know, maybe it's a data center perhaps, or something that exists in the desert, or, you know, in a forest, for example. In an Irish context, I find this one probably the most realistic to an Irish kind of landscape, if you think of it that way. And then you can even see the reflection on the windows is whatever the source of your rear image is as well. Or if you just want a white background, it will just make it white as well. So that's entirely up to your preference. I can change the density of the clouds, so all the way up, very cloudy. You know, maybe again will suit the Irish context. And then I can even change the variety of the clouds as well. So very random kind of stuff, but gives that sense of realism to your actual visualization, or whatever the purpose of what you're presenting is as well. So I'm just going to navigate back into that. And then you can change a couple of the output settings as well. Ultra HD, full HD, change all of that if you need to. So if you're presenting on a, you know, large TV screen, maybe Ultra HD, turn it on. If it's 8K or 4K, turn that on from there. And then various different export methods for images, which I'll show you in a moment as well. And just in the atmosphere, a couple of different things I didn't touch on. So outside here, we have a tree. So this is just a Revit tree, but it does convert it into an Enscape tree. So if you're familiar with the Revit trees, I mean, they're not terribly detailed. This is it here, basically. So this is the same tree. I'm not going to save that. So just one of these type of trees. So where are we? It's yeah, I think it's maybe this one or one of these. So it's just this type of tree. I didn't do linking assets or anything like that. It automatically converts trees into really high quality trees. And I suppose that what I'm trying to show you here is I can increase the wind on this. Increase the wind on
sorry, that should be moving in the wind. So yeah, it's not a movable tree, but I can place, I can turn up wind, for example, and I can place trees that do have moving elements to it. I'll just see if there's another one to it. But you can actually see blowing in the wind if you turn that up. Because it's a Revit tree, I think that's why. It has to be an Enscape tree, and you'll actually see the movement of the trees as well. What I can also do in here, you'll probably notice that, you know, it's getting kind of dark and it looks like the sun is about to go down almost. I can change the time of day, but the time of day also reflects from inside Revit. So using your same Revit settings, I could change the time of day from inside here if I wanted to as well. I could change all of those settings the same way I would in a standard Revit project. I can change my sun and time settings from inside here as well if I want to. But I can also do it from inside the Enscape environment and change the time of day. And it does, if your project is geolocated, you know, given a location in Revit, you know, to Ireland or to you know, whether different side of the world or whatever, it will give you the accurate sun location as well and height for that. So, for example, if I, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the time of the sun here. Okay. So what I can do is if I hold the shift key and then all I have to do is left click on my mouse, I can change the time of day, and you can see in the bottom right, the time of day is actually moving, and you know, we're in the nighttime now. And then if you have lights in your model, the lights will actually turn on as well inside your model. So there's very few lights turned on in this, and you kind of got quite a night kind of view in there as well. So I'm going to bring us back into daytime, into kind of fairly bright, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. So fairly bright in the morning. All I'm doing is changing the time of day, so you've complete control over that as well. So just before I suppose finish up with those kind of tools, other things I want to show you while you're inside here. So view management, view management from inside here. This is exactly the same thing that we see in Revit. These are again those 3D views, and I can jump to these particular 3D views and it will snap to them. And these are all the views that are set up in Revit as well. I can even have the time of day to be slightly different on those. And I can even link some sort of visual presets to that as well. So various different types of presets, or even add a favorite if you have lots of different views. So I'm just going to go back. So I can jump between the different views from inside here, as well as I can do it from inside the Revit environment as well. And we'll just take a second to jump between those particular views. So you can see you kind of got an external view, and you can actually see now, if you can notice, the grass here is actually moving in the wind, and that's from the intensity. As you move, the grass will blow in the wind as well. So that's from the intensity that we have turned on. So it's actually replaced, again, it's replaced the Revit grass with Enscape grass. It does this itself as soon as you import it. You don't have to make any material changes or anything. And what they've added in one of the later versions of Enscape, I think it was, we're on version 3.2, I think it might have been 3.1, they added the asset library, or it might have been the last 6 months, the asset library. So you can actually place objects from inside here as well. So I could go in here, you know, maybe I have a lot of trees to place, I can use multi-asset, or again, I could just search in here. Maybe I want to search for a car, if there are any cars. I've got some toy cars there, not what we're quite looking for. Some medical equipment. Here we have a bit of a car here. So I can place these cars in the car park, for example, and I can apply and leave. So it's just asked me to, it's just going to render that car for a moment. Just once, it does a one-time thing only, and it's going to apply those changes there then as well. So there's that car. I can now view that car. The geometry on it, as you can see, is fairly detailed. The reflections look very realistic in there as well. So you can place all of those objects from inside the Enscape inside the Enscape environment, and it also has placed it inside the Revit environment as well. So again, if I go to my floor or site plan, I should be able to see that car. So there's that car there. So I could come in here and move that. Again, I could link this to a Revit object if I didn't like the geometry, like we did with the furniture, and that has updated in here as well. So very powerful, as you can see. So that's from the asset library. Add any type of objects, furniture, the same way we did inside the Revit environment. You can do all of that from in here, whether it's furniture, bookcases, or pictures, anything like that.
You could even grab, you know, a picture, for example, and place it on a wall inside the building. Just navigate into the building and choose where you want to place it, for example. So again, it will just render it for a second. Because you're doing it in the environment, it renders it in there. If you place it in Revit, it's automatically updated once you come into the environment itself. So there's that picture now placed on the wall. So I can scale that then if I wanted to make that slightly bigger. So adding that bigger depth of realism to it as well. So that's the asset library and the view settings. I can also add a video path in here as well. So I could go to the video editor and I could add, so I add a keyframe, then I move, I might add another keyframe up here, for example, and then I can just keep navigating, adding keyframes and adding frames in between as well. So what I can do is obviously navigate around my building and creating a video path as I do that as well. So I'm just going to move around the building here. So I just added a couple of keyframes there. So that's added a bit of a video. So what I'm going to do is just press play on that. So it's going to navigate around that video path. So this can be exported to an AVI or MP4 file, so a video file effectively. That can be exported and then done some editing to it as well. You can mess around with the keyframes just to make it a bit tidier if you want. But effectively, you know, that's one of the export types out of Enscape that you can perform as well. So very fast, as you can see. And then I can simply I can export that. It takes a couple of minutes because it renders the full video. You can export that as well, choosing lots of different settings there as well. So I'll just mention that briefly. Obviously, there's more you can do on that. I want to make sure I get through all the cool settings and features for you today. So what I can also do is take a screenshot. So if I want to go to maybe some sort of different view in here, let's see what. So if you want to want one that looks a bit better. Okay, we'll go with that one for now. I can export that as a screenshot. So export that as a screenshot. Just exports it as a very simple image. Exporting image takes a couple of seconds. And I think when you compare that to rendering an image, for example, that's your still image exported in literally seconds. Very powerful, you know, when you think of the speed and the process that we used to have to go through to perform things like that. It does make me laugh in a way. So, and then you can batch render images as well. So all of your Revit views, you can select all of them, for example, and then render all of the images. You can either do them as mono panoramas or stereo panoramas as well, that you can navigate just in the particular view. So you can choose all of those, export them as well, exact same way we did with the single screenshot. So very, very impressive. And then the panorama, that's when you navigate around in a single view. You can export the panorama and share that as a URL link. One of the coolest things with this, in my opinion, is the exe file. So this is, like I mentioned, you can export this and share it to a client, for example. So if I select exe file, I won't do it now because it might take a couple of minutes, but it just exports it as an executable file effectively. Here's one I prepared earlier. This is actually one you can download, and it's a highly detailed Enscape model. It's about 700 megabytes, but you could put that in, you know, a shared drive or whatever the case is, and the client can open it and they'll see a very similar environment to this. They don't need Revit. They don't need Enscape whatsoever. They can open up the file and they can navigate around with the keyboard. All they want, you know, see their building design and navigate around the exact same way we can. They can't change materials or move objects or anything like that. It's just an exact replication of whatever your export was from your particular file as well. So that's the exe format. And you can also send it to a web location. So it will export it as an exe, but it's a URL link that then you can send to your client or to your, you know, stakeholders, or, you know, whatever the case is. You can share that then with other users as well from in there. So the collaborative annotation is something I didn't go into in detail. So when I'm in here, I can obviously navigate around, but I can also generate issues. So I can create an issue. So let's say it captures an issue. So it captures a screenshot of where I'm facing. So I can select an object, for example. I can say, you know, check vision panel size, please. you know, maybe there's a Part A or Part M requirement for that particular door. You can put in more detail in the description. Please check Part M if I have my building regulations correct there. So please check Part M. So you can change the issue position of that as well. If I move the camera, maybe it's a different door, for example, and there's different statuses: new, in progress, done, removed. Press create on that. So then it creates an issue. So if you're working on a Revit model together, work shared model, for example, someone else has Enscape, when they open this model later on, they'll see the same issues inside here as well. It could be the modeler that you're, as a designer, feeding back. So they could review all of these issues. They could put a comment back in here, or they could change the status, for example, if they needed to as well. They could say, okay, done, for example, or press save on that, and it's going to change the status. And you can then filter through all of the statuses by different colors as well. So very, very powerful. You can also export issues to BCF files, which is very powerful if you're doing coordination. BCF is a neutral format coordination file. And you can also import issues from BCF as well into this environment here as well. So very, very powerful. You can filter by Revit category. So you'll probably recognize all these categories from Revit. You can filter by Revit category, selecting on any of these and seeing all of the parametric objects, for example, or parametric properties on the left-hand side: fire rating, size, windowsill height, anything like that. And as soon as you select an object, what I forgot to mention, I can select this door, for example. I could either create an issue, which I've just done, or it could show the BIM data. So it's going to show me the opening width of that door. It's going to show me the height of the door, any sort of parametric information, even IFC information, the finishes, anything that is added to an object or piece of geometry inside here. It's going to pull that into the Enscape environment as well. So very, very powerful. So I'm just conscious of time. I want to make sure I get through everything here for you today. Something called a mini map. So as I navigate, you can see in the top left, it kind of shows you in a 2D view where you are, what you're facing, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the mini map. Safe frame. So a safe frame, the safe frame kind of reduces the demand on your graphics and your RAM as well. So it will only render what it sees here in this. So if I change the material on the floor, it will only render it in this view. Once I start moving, then it will obviously render it behind me, but it's just a safe view. It just reduces the time and, I suppose, demand on hardware as well, using safe frame. So very powerful. Change all the views, and you can fly, which I've probably been doing a lot of. So I can go out here. All I'm doing is, again, mouse, left click, keyboard, forward button, and shift key. I'm just flying around. So kind of, having great fun looking through all the different building designs and seeing how everything interacts within here. But what I can also do, if I just go to walk mode, it means that you just, it sticks to the floor effectively. So I can kind of move down this stairs. There he is, or there she is, going down the stairs. There we have a bit of a head height issue, as we can see. Bit of a head height issue in this particular ceiling. So I could create an issue on this if I wanted to create an issue and say head height issue, for example. Check part K. So it's attached that issue to the ceiling, so that needs to be checked now. So effectively, you can do all those type of checks in there as well. And then we've gone through the visual settings. So that's kind of, I mean, you can't, it's hard to go wrong in here. There's only tools in here. It's nothing too complex. There's only the tools that you need in here to be able to see your different views, generate your renders, and even just walk through your model from inside here as well. So before we finish up, what I want to look at as well is obviously I want to look at this from not just an architectural perspective, but I want to look at this from, an engineering perspective as well. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to pause that for a second. Now I'm going to open up the sample file for the structural model for this one. If I remember this one. Okay, so I'm just going to save that onto my desktop. All I'm going to do is link these files in. Just going to go back. Oh, there we go. Okay. I've done it already. So what I'm going to do is just going to link in these files. Go open. Hopefully the coordinates are set up on this. That's fine. Okay. So the structural model has come in there. So if I now go to my default 3D view, so I should be able to see my structural model in here. So I just want to make sure that it's turned on in the view. So if something is turned off in a view, for example, it will be turned off in Enscape as well. So if I hide an element here, so if I hide the structural model, for example, it will also hide in the Enscape view that I have open as well. So it intuitively knows, you know, what you need to see and what you don't need to see as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to close this. I'm going to save that, yes. So I'm just going to open a structural model. I don't want to save the video path. I'll just ignore that. I'm going to close that. Okay. So I go back to my sample files, open up my structural project. So again, exact same. Press start on this. And just to show you the structural model, it's not just architectural elements. I know I spoke a lot about materials and objects and furniture and stuff like that, but I still, you know, being able to present this at a design team meeting and discuss this, you know, the floor ropes, the piles, the foundations, the slab, you know, the upstands, anything like that, being able to discuss that with the contractor before site, you know, is extremely powerful. And again, using the issue plugin, right clicking on this down stand, for example, create issue on that particular element. It selects that element for me, and then I can generate an issue against that for whatever reason I think is required as well. And then obviously, if I have the architectural model linked in, I can turn on the architectural model in the background as well. And I can change the material of this concrete if I want, you know, if I wanted to give that kind of look or effect on that regards as well. You could obviously then generate your separate 3D views from inside here. You know, maybe you've got one of the foundations, then the floor slab, and then the floors and walls going up as well. And in a sequence, you could have them generated as separate views inside here as well. So exact same use that you could use it from an architectural point of view. You know, for a pre-construction need for structural engineers, for example, you could use it from inside here. And then finally, before we finish up, what I obviously want to open up is an MEP model, which I'm fairly sure I have one. So I'm just going to open up this MEP model. So what I'm going to do is turn off my, there's a section box, it's for the same building, section box, and my crop region is turned on. So do not touch crop view, perfect. Here's my building. So what I'm now going to do is go to Enscape, yeah, just start this view. So because I've turned off the section box, it will recognize this when it starts in Enscape as well. It's the exact same as when it generates any type of view. What I didn't mention as well is that you can actually generate renders. If I was to generate a render image into document, I can do that from inside here as well. It will create a still, so it's done that in the background, and then on the left hand side here, it places it here on the left hand side. I can't find it straight away, but it places it here on the left hand side. You've got all your rendered images then, and they'll exist here as well in your environment. So if we go into our Enscape environment, so the building is linked in that particular view, and we can go in and investigate all of our MEP equipment, for example, and see what the various interactions are with that as well. So we've kind of some. Okay, so all I'm going to do is make sure that the architectural model is turned off. So again, if I go back into this view, that ceiling should actually be turned off on the roof as well once it updates. I just need to start it again, but it should update itself. So again, if I hide any of these elements, whether it's ceilings or anything like that, it will only show me what's visible in this particular view. So if I just go to start again on this, okay, if you want to pop any questions into the chat box, please feel free to. Be great to hear your feedback or anything that you're considering using this for. So again, you can see all our mechanical equipment now as per the MEP model, how it appears in there. We can change again the visual styles if we want, and apply materials, apply the aluminium or stainless steel materials to the various objects as well. And you can navigate around through all of your pre-construction and detailed design level of equipment, even if it's ducts or AHUs or whatever it is. You can see all of that type of equipment in your building model as well. So thank you very much for your time. Again, just pop some questions in your chat box. Would be great to hear any questions. Okay, we have one in there. Can you import Fbx into Enscape, and can that Fbx be ran back into Revit? So you can, so I'm just going to close this. So as far as I know, you can import, can you open an Fbx file in Revit? I thought you could. So effectively it works the same way. You link in any file. If you can link in that file to a Revit environment, it's the exact same. So I don't think you can bring an Fbx file into Revit. DXF, no. If you can't import it into Revit, then it can't be brought into Enscape. But I would ask, what are you bringing it from 3D Max or something like that, or is there another format that it can be brought in? And for example, you can bring a SketchUp file in here. You can bring a format file in here, which is an AXM file, and you can bring a Navisworks file in here. Obj import, can you do Obj? I don't see Obj, but there is. I always thought you could bring an Obj, and I can confirm that for you. Let me double check that. I'm fairly sure you could bring an Obj into a Revit environment. You can, for example, you could bring in Civil 3D as an example, files, topography and stuff like that. Let me confirm about the Obj and the Fbx workflow. There is a way. It depends if you can export it to a different format, that will carry its materials. You can bring it in here. For example, if you do bring in a format file, so that's Format Pro from Autodesk, it carries all its materials into Revit. The Fbx, I'm not sure of that workflow. You can definitely export Fbx anyway. So hopefully I'll check out the Obj side of it for you anyway. Another question, can you use third-party materials? So again, you can bring in any materials. If you can import a material into Revit without Enscape, then yes, you can use it in Enscape. So if you have your own material library, for example, if you have your own material library within Revit, you can use all of those materials as well. So by all means, yes, you can. In terms of limit and resolution, I'm not sure what the limit is in resolution. It is, what I will say is, I suppose it is fairly high quality, visually speaking, on even on the stills and in the video as well. I'm not sure what the figure is, but it goes right up to Ultra HD anyway, at least for the rendering, the walkthrough environment. Okay, if there's no further questions, feel free to get in touch at any of these email addresses. So I'll just bring up those email addresses again. Just feel free to get in touch. The promo runs until the 22nd, of February. The prices, so a standalone license is about €455. €455. That's without the discount. And then there's a floating license, which obviously you can use from machine to machine, one person at a time, but it can be used on multiple machines. And that's about €750, if I remember correctly. And that's without the discount. So yearly floating license is 778 without the discount. Yearly fixed seat license is 455. That's without the discount. Anyway. Sorry, just one final question here. Can you edit the objects from the asset library? You can edit the objects from the asset library, or you can in fact build your own as well. So it kind of has that workflow as well, that you can build your own from the other side as well. So whichever works best for you. I'm fairly sure you can edit the Enscape ones, or you can just duplicate them and build your own families from them as well. Okay, good stuff, guys. I'll leave it there for today. Just again, email any questions or get in touch if you like what you saw, and if you have a specific use or project that you think it will work on, just get in touch with us. Thanks, guys. Have a nice day and enjoy the rest of your week, everybody.